Hi guys, this is Katie Archambault. I am Director of Research at Emma Willard and I'm your AISL President.
And I'm Catherine McKenzie. I'm the Associate Director of Library Services and Instructional Technology at Santa Fe Preparatory School.
So as you guys know, we will be in Atlanta very soon and we thought that it would be really cool to kick things off to hear from a local independent feminist bookstore owner.
So today I'm going to introduce Sara Look. She is a co-owner of the award-winning independent feminist bookstore, Charis Books More, with Angela Gabriel since 1997. She's the store's general manager and head book buyer. She also has independent school connections. Sara is an alumna of Williston in Massachusetts, and she's a parent of an independent school student in Atlanta. So welcome, Sara, and thank you for taking the time to talk with Katie and me today.
Thank you.
Also, yeah, hi. I want to say too, full disclosure, Sara hired me way back in 1993 to work at Chapter 11 Bookstore, and I have also worked and volunteered at Charis since the mid-'80s. Sara is also my secret power in the library world of collection development. So, welcome, Sara.
Thanks.
It's been a busy year for Charis this year. Charis is going to be moving this coming spring of 2019, and they have also won the the very first We Need Diverse Books. They named you the Bookseller of the Year. We're going to talk about the award a little bit later, but I thought we could start with that you could tell us a quick description of Charis for our listeners and a little bit more about the move coming up in the spring, next spring to Agnes Scott.
Sure. So Charis Books More, we're in the Little Five Points neighborhood of Atlanta at this moment. We have been in this neighborhood since 1974. I have been full-time at Charis since 1994. Charis is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We specialize in unique and diverse children's books. About a quarter of our store is children's books. And then we also specialize in literary fiction, queer studies, cultural studies, political books, all kinds of good stuff. We kind of always say that we have almost everything that you would find in a general bookstore, but under a feminist lens. We also are a hybrid, so we are Charis Books More, which is a business, a bookstore, and then we also have a programming arm, which is a 501c3 called the Charis Circle, which we started in 1996. And the Charis Circle funds, promotes, and runs all of the programming that happens here, which in addition to just your general literary events is also different discussion groups and support groups and community programming. The Charis Circle exists to encourage diverse and marginalized voices, foster sustainable feminist community, and work for social justice. And so we do that in tandem, the bookstore and the circle together.
And how did the circle come about in 1996? I know recently in San Francisco, a lot of independent bookstores have been moving to different models. I know Patreon, the Patreon wasn't around back in 1996. So no. I said, like, you guys are kind of on the cutting edge of that.
So what happened is one of our co-founders was talking to someone who was working in the nonprofit world, who was a funder in the nonprofit world, and he said, "What you're really doing is a lot of nonprofit work, and you could start a nonprofit." So she did, and she created the Charis Circle for us, and has been going ever since. And it really, they share expenses with us, which is what helps us all get to stay around, because it is very hard these days to be an independent feminist bookstore. In the early 90s, there were like 120 feminist bookstores, and actually 4 have opened up in the past year. So our numbers are up. So I think we're closer. I haven't looked exactly, but I think we're getting closer to maybe 16 or 17 now, feminist bookstores in the U.S. and Canada. But the Circle is funded through grants, individual donations, and events, but it's mostly individually donor funded, which really means that what we have is community support, which is really wonderful.
Yeah. So on the new stores that open, I've only seen two. I've seen the one from Brooklyn and the one from, I think, is it Mississippi?
Right. I just actually updated them on our website, so we have a list of independent feminist bookstores in the U.S. and Canada. So I recently, so Cafe Con Lechos is in Brooklyn. Card Carrying Bookshop is in upstate New York, I believe. Wild Violets is in Mississippi, and Athenian is in Wilmington, I can never remember. One of the Carolinas, North Carolina, wherever Wilmington.
North Carolina. Yeah, Wilmington.
North Carolina. Yes, Wilmington, North Carolina.
I also was interested too in maybe having you go into a little bit, since there are so few feminist bookstores around. I wanted to read, I did a lot of research on this on the background for the interview, and I found in a past interview that you have done, and I would like to read just a small section from it, and it's where you are talking about the digital content revolution and brick and mortar communal gathering spaces. It reminds me a lot of when I first read the quote. It reminded me a lot of Ferguson during the riots, and how the public library, the space that played during the riots, and also just the space that libraries, even in our independent school communities, that they play many roles. So here's a little excerpt from that interview, and you said, we are all for the digital content revolution, but what folks often don't realize is that when we lose the stores, we lose the communal gathering spaces around which we build new ideas and culture. We have folks from all over the South drive hundreds of miles to browse our shelves because they know they or their family will be well represented. People attend our events because they love sitting in a room with other people who love books and talking about them. We know how invaluable a space like Charis is because we see it transform customers' lives each and every day. We have always been more than a bookstore, and we are always excited when we get to celebrate that with the general public. So in keeping with that, if we're like moving now into 2018, I think that may have been like 3 or 4 years ago that you had said that. So in 2018, given the hashtag Me Too and the hashtag Black Lives Matter movements, how has Charis's feminism advanced to serve the community?
I don't know about advanced, but I mean, one of the things that we are proud of and feel that Atlanta is lucky to have is that we are a public feminist space that is open 7 days a week. So that's part of why we have been committed to staying a bookstore and not just becoming a nonprofit that does some programs. It means that we are a space that people can come into. We have a bulletin board, we have programming, but it means that they can come here, and even if they don't have quote unquote another reason to come here. And a lot of folks come here as a sort of as a safe space or as an oasis or a place where they can just be and bring their whole selves and see their whole selves reflected on our shelves. And often what we do get is a lot of folks when things happen in the world, we're one of the places that they come. So when verdicts come out that are make you mad or unsettled or scared in the world, we get people who come here because they need a place to go.
Exactly. And I think that, I'm going to pull Katie into this here, and kind of pull us back into the world of books, and Katie and I both being librarians ourselves. You're winning the We Need Diverse Books Award, the very first award this year. And just to know, like, some of the finalists for this award were Powell's City of Books in Portland, Oregon, Book People in Austin, Texas, and Children's Book World in Los Angeles were just a few of the finalists for this award. And Charis and you, Sara, won the Bookseller of the Year award. I have to say that both Katie and I are very jealous of your photo with Jacqueline Woodson, who presented you at the 2017 We Need Diverse Bookseller of the Year awards. But before we get into those details, I would like to again just read a quick quote, and then we're going to move into, I think, asking you some questions then about books, which I think all of our librarians will be excited to hear about. We've asked Sara to create a list of upcoming new diverse books. So Sara, this is from Publishers Weekly from November 21st. Sara's created hands down the most diverse children's and YA section in the South for more than 23 years. She is passionately devoted to building a better world through books, and she does her research making sure that each book on the shelf is not tokenizing a group or identity, but deeply reflective of that group or culture's true lived experience. And I know from working with you, I would agree that you're probably one of the best book buyers, if not in the South, in the country. So we would love some details on how did it feel to receive the award from Jacqueline Woodson, and then I think Katie will jump in here too, and we'll kind of move into talking about upcoming newly published diverse books.
It was awesome to receive an award from Jacqueline Woodson, and I don't know if I sent it to you, but you can actually view the whole award ceremony on YouTube, and it includes also a presentation that a bunch of authors did, talking about all kinds of things that before the actual awards ceremony, which I don't know if I sent that to you, but I will, because it's a really great little it's like a podcast, like to see on YouTube. But includes the award ceremony, but that actually is not even the symposium that was ahead of it was really wonderful. So.
Okay,
I can't remember what else you asked me about.
What else
besides Jackie. I keep calling her Jackie, but besides getting an award from Jackie.
I don't know about Katie, but I loved Brown Girl Dreaming is one of my favorite books. So
I read Feathers. I haven't read Brown Girl Dreaming yet.
It's wonderful. I thought it was very lyrical. So okay, well, let's do one more quote from or actually let's tell our listeners to get their pencils and papers out and ready, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk diverse books now with Sara, particularly new books on the horizon, and some of Sara's favorite diverse books. We do have, just to let Sara know, and we have talked, we have elementary school teachers, we have middle school teachers, and we have high school teachers, I should say, librarians. So we go across all of the school genres. So I know you prepared a list of a few books, so if you're ready to share with us, let's talk some new books coming out.
Sure. So I just made some quick notes, and I realized that I wrote down titles, authors, when they're coming out. I didn't write down the publishers, which I usually do, but so it would just be a quick list of some new books that are coming out. And then, but before I did that, I was also just going to mention some books that we love and that we continue, like what our bestsellers are here, because I think they're kind of unique to being a feminist bookstore, which are A is for Activists, which by Inasanto Nagara, which started as a self-published book and then got published by a larger publisher, is really a self-publishing success story. It has been our consistent bestseller since it first came out several years ago, and I think we were actually the first independent bookstore to actually carry it when it was self-published, and then we just keep selling it, and we love it. And he also did a new book recently called The Wedding Portrait: The Story of a Photograph, and why sometimes we break the rules, which is really a book about explaining protest and direct action to children and activism, and it's really beautiful, with beautiful pictures.
What would be the age range on that?
I think it's a picture book, but it's still for older kids. I would say it's more like in the 2nd to 3rd grade.
Okay.
A is for Activists came out first as a board book, but I always think of it as sort of as a board book really for the parents. And then they reissued it also as a picture book, which works really well as well.
I have some advisees who are seniors who I can see giving that as a graduation gift too.
Oh yeah, Yeah, especially as when it became a picture book. It would be a great graduation gift. The other really sort of random it's not random, it's very popular, but the book that is also a self-publishing miracle story is Rupi Kaur's Milk and Honey, and which we sell a ton to teenage girls, and also her new book of poetry, Sun and Her Flowers. We have seen an enormous rise in the amount of poetry we're selling, and we keep joking that it's a result of Tumblr feminism, and it's teenage girls on Tumblr who have discovered poetry, and which is really wonderful. But Milk and Honey we can't keep in stock, which is great. And another, I'm just going to name in the self-published books first, but another book that we sell a lot of is When a Bully is a President, which is by Maya Gonzalez, and she has done some mainstream popular published books and also some self-published books, and she writes a lot about race and gender, and this particular book is just what it says. It's a book about oppression and trying to explain what's happening to younger kids. And again, that book, it's a coloring book, but it's really, I would say, more for like second to third grade and up. We also sell another coloring book called Color My Fro, a natural hair coloring book, and that is by far our most popular coloring book, because coloring books are popular these days, mostly with adults, but we sell that to parents, kids, and all kinds of folks. We also can't keep in stock Children of Blood and Bone, which by Tomi Adeyemi, which is a new young adult fantasy novel. I think it's already going to be made into a movie. It got a lot of hype. It came out and it's flying off the shelves. And the other kind of trends and things that we're excited about are books about sexuality and consent, because they're finally putting out some better ones these days, including Tell Me About Sex, Grandma by Anastasia Higginbotham. And there's another new book we get a lot of requests for books about teaching consent to kids, and there's another new book out called What Does Consent Really Mean? And I wrote down their last name, which is Wallace, but not the rest of their name. But that's some of the stuff that we're selling right now. Also, the other things we're excited about coming up, and I think I mentioned this to you, Catherine, is that there are more and more middle grade novels coming out that have LGBTQ themes, which there weren't very many for a while, but I think there's like 3 or 4 that are coming out this year, which is really great.
And I read Ivy Aberdeen, by the way, and it was a good book.
Good. I haven't actually not read it yet, but
yeah, it was good. Yeah,
good to know. There's another one that's also in that same age range coming out called Drumroll Please by Lisa Jen Bigelow that we're excited about, but I haven't read it yet. And then I was just going to give you all a list of some other books that we're really excited about. Will that work?
That would be fabulous.
Yeah. Okay. I realized I think they're actually more in order of when they're coming out than age. But so Becky Albertelli is a local author, and she wrote Love, Simon, which just became a movie. And the book Love, Simon, actually, there's a tiny little part where Simon goes to Charis. It's not named as Charis, but it really is Charis in the book. But her new novel, Leah on the Offbeat, is coming out at the end of this month, and we're excited about that. It's a new young adult novel with queer themes. We are excited.
Gonna be in that?
I'm sorry?
Is Charis going to be in that one? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think that was just a total side note that she's like, in Love, Simon, the bookstore that Simon goes into, it's Charis. And I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if he goes into a bookstore in the movie. So I don't know. 2 Native American picture books that we're excited about are Bow Wow Powwow, which comes out in the beginning of May. It's by Brenda J. Child and Jonathan Thunder, and it's an Ojibwe story about some kids who attend a powwow. It has beautiful illustrations, and so does First Laugh Welcome Baby, which is a Navajo family story, and it's by Rose Ann Tahe, T-A-H-E, and Nancy Bo Flood. Let's see, we also, on this list, there's some new books about resistance and activism for teens. There's We Rise, We Resist, We Raise Our Voices, which is edited by Wade Hudson and Cheryl Willis Hudson, and also is How I Resist, Activism and Hope for a New Generation, which is edited by Maureen Johnson. We recently had Sonia Renee Taylor here, and she does a blog and a website called The Body Is Not an Apology. We had standing room only for her, but she is doing a puberty book for girls that's coming out at the end of May called Celebrate Your Body and Its Changes Too, The Ultimate Puberty Book for Girls, by Sonia Renee Taylor. There is a new picture book coming out called Julian is a Mermaid. It comes out at the end of May by Jessica Love. She wrote it and did the illustrations, and it is about an Afro-Latino boy at this moment. His name is Julian, and he is out with his grandma, and he sees a bunch of mermaids, which I believe are drag queens. That's how it looked to me. And he is fascinated with them, and his grandma recognizes his fascination, and they go home, and he dresses up as a mermaid as well, and he goes and meets some of the other adult mermaids, and they have a parade. It's a really great book, and I've never seen anything like it. Will Walton lives up in Athens, Georgia, and he has written another young adult book called I Felt a Funeral in My Brain, which we are excited about because he's local and he's a queer author, local queer author. The sequel to Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova, it's the Brooklyn Brewhouse number 2 in the series is coming, which is called The Brewha Born. We're excited about that. In the Rad Women of the World and Rad American Women series, there is a book for younger folks, and it's called Rad Girls Can, Stories of Bold, Brave, and Brilliant Young Women, and it's by Kate Schatz and Miriam Klein Stahl. And We Need Diverse Books actually has 2 collections that they have helped collaborate on. One is Fresh Ink, an anthology edited by Lamar Giles, and the other is on my list here somewhere, but I don't see it. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Because I don't all of a sudden see it. Let's see. Jackie Woodson actually has 2 new books coming out. In August. She has her first middle grade novel since Brown Girl Dreaming that's coming out in August called Harbor Me. And then she also has a picture book called The Day You Begin that is illustrated by Rafael Lopez. And that is also there. I think they're coming out on the same day at the end of August. So, and what else? Oh, the last book that is on this list, which I wanted to call attention to because it's not going to appear in children's catalogs, is that there is a reprint for the first time in 40 years of James Baldwin's children's book, his only children's book. So, and it's called Little Man, A Story of Childhood. It is aimed at ages 8 to 11, and Duke University Press is publishing it. And that is out at the end of August as well.
Sarah, can I ask you where you recommend librarians a good source for following new publications of books like this?
You know, I follow a lot of things these days on Facebook and Instagram, then read their blogs. So I can't tell you at this moment who they are.
Right. It's not like one
They're
school.
not in front of me, but that is literally how I look, you know, and seeing and I read, and I read a lot of catalogs. That's
Right.
what I do, but I also try to follow along with what other people are recommending, and there's a lot of sort of bloggers out there who that this is what they're doing. There's the Conscious Kid is someone. There's I think there's like the Brown Baby Bookshelf, and Here We Read is another one.
Okay.
I can look and make sure I'm telling you the right things.
No, this is great. I want to check.
You know.
Okay. Should we shift to programming now, Catherine?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah. That list was amazing. I'm going to listen to this on replay. I'm all jotted down. Okay. So I love programming and and I hear you guys do some amazing things there at the store. So while Charis is a bookstore, it shares many similar functions with libraries, curating collections and programming. I know that I'm always looking for new and interesting programming ideas, and I've read that some of Charis's programs include, of course, author talks, yoga, support groups, book signings and poetry open mics, instruction on beekeeping and making a rain barrel. That's awesome. Events with local activists. Can you tell me what are some of your most popular programs?
Sure. So I think the most popular sort of general community programs right now are what we're doing, a feminist event. So it's sort of like bringing back consciousness raising, and there's a sort of a formal format that they use every month. It's always the first Thursday of the month. It's called The Personal is Still Political, a feminist event where everyone is welcome. And we actually get these days a lot of high school students who have been coming, and it's sort of like you come and you kind of anonymously write down some issue that's going on in your life, or a question or something you've been thinking about and you want to talk about, and then the group sort of processes it together. And it can be that a way of getting advice or feedback, or just of ways of just thinking about different issues. So like literally it's like, I just saw this story about Sherman Alexie and I need to talk about it and in these different ways, and then the group talks about it, and that has been very popular. The other program that we're doing is the Race Conscious Parenting Collective. So we have 3 facilitators. One of them is E.R. Anderson, who is the director of the Charis Circle, our nonprofit, and then they have 2 community folks who lead it with them. And it is a parenting group that is aimed at parents of white parents, either who are white and raising white children, or who are white and raising biracial or multiracial children. All are welcome, and sometimes people of color also attend, but really the aim is for the group to sort of fight systemic racism and talk about the best ways to do that using an intersectional feminist approach, and trying to dismantle white supremacy from within. We do what we call a Stories for Free Children story hour. So every month we've been doing a story hour where we just read books from our shelves, which libraries obviously do really well all the time. And we also do we do not currently do a writing group for young adults, but for many, many years we did once a week had a writing group for young adults, which was very popular. Right now we have a community writing group, which is for activists, healers, and everyday heroes. So it's more like social workers and educators and psychologists who come to that. We also have a young adult program called Trans and Friends, which is sort of an informal support group for folks who are questioning their gender and allies, and it is aimed at young adults like 13 to early 20s. So.
Wow. How do you
That's
come up
my
with
my.
your programming ideas?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, how do you come up with your programming ideas?
Um, so the circle has I don't have it in front of me, but has specific like aims that they work for. So they so some programs fit into like different themes that we have. So we have a from margin to center literary event themes. We do like a specific amount of children. We try to do children's programming. We have like a health and wellness track and community activism. So I mean, those are the themes that we try to look for. We are lucky that a lot of people approach us with programs,
Oh, that's cool.
and we're really open to that.
That's great. Is there a program that you guys have hosted that surprised you by being more popular than you expected it to be?
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No,
It's a good question, but
no, that's okay. What program have you guys hosted that you personally enjoyed the most?
So I often don't come to the programs because I am here all day. And up until recently, I also had a young child at home, which meant I was really not home in the evenings. My daughter is now 17, so I am now have more freedom to move about in the evenings than I used to have. So, and that doesn't mean that I haven't certainly been to many, many programs over the past 25 years here at Charis. So, I mean, I have a lot of favorite authors, so that those are the things that I mostly think about. You know, like hearing Dorothy Allison or Alice Walker or Alison Bechtel.
When did you guys have Alison Bechtel?
Alison Bechtel has been here. She was here with every single Dykes to Watch Out For comic book before she got famous, and then she got famous and with Fun Home and hasn't been able to come back since. And we've talked to her about it since, but she's just very, very busy and hasn't made it back here. But she's been here, I don't know, at least many, many, many times, but not in the past 10 years. That is the beauty of being sort of a community institution since 1974, that often we get folks who come here before they get really famous. So Jacqueline Woodson also came here about 20 years ago before she got famous.
That's great.
That's amazing. Tell me this, Sarah, what marketing tool have you found to be most effective for your programming?
You know, sometimes I feel like we're still sort of a little secret and people are just discovering us. And we are very lucky is not really the word I would use, but since the election of Trump, our business has risen substantially because folks have sort of rediscovered feminism and activism and have realized a lot of people didn't even know that Atlanta had a feminist bookstore, and have found us again or excited to know that we even exist. And I think a lot of that is the internet and word of mouth. But we don't pay for advertising. We don't do advertising, so marketing is definitely not our strength. So a lot of it is having been around a long time and is actually doing a lot of co-sponsoring of stuff, I would say. So I wasn't here last night, but we did this a couple years ago and it was amazing. And last night I heard when we had like 80 folks here last night for a feminist resource fair. So we had about 30 different community organizations here sharing information about their organizations, and then 50 folks who showed up to learn about them. So that was a lot. So we got all those folks here, and then all of those organizations shared it to all of their folks that this event was happening at Charis. So it was everything from transgender issues to immigrant rights to health and reproductive justice, and like Girls Rock Camp was here. So all kinds of organizations were here sharing information. And then because they were here, they shared it with all of their networks.
I love that. Okay.
Well, Sarah, we have a couple final sort of questions for you. So one thing that I know that I'm really interested in, and I know that we talk about a lot, are trends. So I'm just wondering if you could maybe speak to any trends that you're noticing, be it, like you said, the rise of poetry with teenage girls, comics. I know you guys, comics have really kind of taken off. Anything digital, or if people are preferring paper to print, just sort of anything else that you're seeing besides the poetry and the feminism.
Yeah, I think I started already talking about trends before you asked. Sorry.
That's
I mean,
okay.
yeah. So poetry definitely. Jessica Kingsley Press, which is a British press, is doing a ton of books right now on transgender issues. They do a lot of therapeutic books and books on autism, and now they're also doing a lot of books on gender diversity. Sometimes they're a little too British, but they're literally putting out like 2 to 3 books a month on gender diversity, which is and books that have never existed before, which is great. There, in terms of comics, there's a lot more sort of comics that are like how-to, and like, so there's that new one about consent, and there's some other new ones that are about anxiety and forgiveness, and that are aimed at sort of at young adults, and those have been very, very popular. Trying to think of other. Those are the main things that I think about, and that people seem to be buying books again. There was a time period when our sales really had shrunk a lot, and it feels like people keep talking about that people aren't buying books, and I'm like, nope, they're buying books again. And the other thing that I kept hearing over and over again when we were at the We Need Diverse Books Award is people trying to keep saying out loud and over again that people of color buy books. Actually, our largest customer base probably is African American women. And I believe that a survey went out and said that the group of people that buy the most books are African American women. So it's a myth that people of color don't buy books.
Okay, I have another question for you. And I kind of debated about throwing this in, but since you kind of brought it up with the Sherman Alexie thing, how has the dialogue been around that within the store and the people coming in?
I mean, we've been talking about it a lot, as you can imagine. I have been following what some other booksellers are doing. It seems that some bookstores have decided to actually pull books from the shelf. We really believe in free speech. We really believe that people make mistakes, and we believe in restorative justice. We believe that that lives are complicated and books are complicated. It is very rare that we actually pull a book from the shelf. Very often we might choose to not reorder it. We always generally say that we'll order just about anything for somebody, but there are a lot of books that we choose to not carry on our shelves regularly, but we'll order it. We have not, for example, we have not pulled Sherman Alexie's books, but we're not really promoting them right now. And I will also say that we are lucky and that we have a really good collection of Native American books. And I feel like what I kept hearing is a lot of folks being, well, what else is there? What else are we going to buy? What else are we going to read in our classroom? And there are actually many, many, many other wonderful books by Native American authors, from baby books to young adult books, and a ton of novels out there, and memoirs and graphic novels, all by Native American folks. So there's a lot to read out there. And I think that particularly in some Native American communities, that's what was frustrating, is that it felt like Sherman Alexie had been promoted above everybody else. meanwhile, lots of people knew in the background sort of what else was going on.
Do you have any specific recommendations? Like one or two that if I came in and said, what's going to, can you give me a replacement in my classroom for, one of Sherman Alexi's books?
I was gonna say young adult is a little bit harder, but I mean, Joseph Bruchac has a lot of books out. Eric Gansworth has a new novel coming out and an older novel as well. And there's a lot of books that are adult novels that I think particularly that are completely suitable for young adults. From Louise Erdrich to Joy Harjo, lots of those.
Great. And we have a final question, unless Katie has something else to add in. What have you read recently that you would recommend? And it can be for those of us, for the librarians who are maybe on flights coming into Atlanta soon, or something in YA that really struck you.
Well, that's a trick question because I didn't write that down.
Yeah, I know.
My favorite adult novel that is about to come out in paperback right now is called The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. It's a historical British novel set at the turn of the century. It's a bit of a mystery, and it's just beautiful writing, and it's sort of a political feminist novel. The book I'm reading right now isn't out yet, and it comes out this summer. It's called Confessions of a Fox, and it is by Jordy Rosenberg, and it is also a historical novel that's sort of a hybrid and a weird novel within a novel about a rewriting of the character Mac the Knife from the Threepenny Opera, and it's an academic in Western Mass who's discovered this manuscript, and it turns out that this character, who is actually based on a real person, Jack Shepherd, he's actually transgender. He's a trans man, and the academic who discovers this is also transgender, and it's got footnotes and references to actual other books, but it's all a novel, and it's really great writing, and it's really interesting. The other, this is just random and doesn't necessarily fall under diverse books, but I read two really wonderful novels that I'm gonna mess up their names, but one was Snow Lane by Josie Angelini, and which is a middle grade novel about a girl who grows up in Massachusetts in an abusive family in the 80s. And it's really also about what it means when you really choose to stay with your family, even when there's abuse going on, and you make choices about that, to stay within your family. And Girls of Snow and Glass, which is a retelling of Snow White with a lesbian theme, which is also beautifully written, and I loved it. And I love a retold fairy tale.
Well, Sara, I know Katie and we would want to thank you for taking time to talk with us. And just to let all of the AISL librarians know, if you're going to be in Atlanta for the conference, please be sure and stop by Charis. It's a relatively short lift. We'll be staying in Midtown to Little Five Points. And just so you know, you can also follow Charis on all sorts of social media places. I believe Katie and I will have that listed on the video so that you guys can check that out. And I just want to let everyone know that I love, Sara, your Tuesday new books photos on Instagram. I look forward to those every week. And thank you again for taking the time. Katie?
I have one thing that you didn't get to, Catherine, that I want to make sure everybody sees, and I put a slide in here. There is an awesome article that Catherine shared with me when she was doing research and prepping for this interview, and it's from the Southern Spaces Journal. It's about the history of the bookstore and about the place that you guys have played in the neighborhood in which you're located. And as a Southern, I'm originally from the South, and I honestly wish that I had known that you existed. I think that we get stereotyped as being a conservative geographical region that doesn't have a lot of places like this and centers of thought and support. And I just absolutely read it, and I don't know it. Everyone, I hope that if people can, I've provided the URL here in the video. I hope that people, it's just really meaningful, and I'm just really proud that there is a place like this in the South. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you found that too. Thank you.
So I am going to move through the slideshow to provide your contact info. Guys, check her out on the web. Follow on Instagram at Charis Books and More. Twitter is at Charis Circle, and Facebook is at Charis Books. I also have listed, but I want everyone who's coming to the conference to know their store hours. They are very simple. It's Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 6 p.m. Have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Sara, thank you so much for your time. And Catherine, thank you so much for the awesome research you did and for linking us up with your friend and your mentor in finding diverse books. I just learned so much.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you.
And Sara, I look forward to visiting Charis when we're down in Atlanta next week. I'm gonna look for you.
Yes, please do. I look forward to meeting you, and I hope to see some visitors.
You'll know the librarians when they come in. They'll be very excited.
we love librarians.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Katie.
You.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Sara.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.